Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Hannah McAdams. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about logic and how to determine whether a syllogism is valid. This is the second video in a series of 3. I thought there were going to be 2 parts and then it just got to be a big hairy deal. And so it's 3 instead. I'm here with my daughter,
Ellie.
And she's happy to be here, right?
I am.
Yes. Okay, so we are learning this together. I am a former classroom teacher and I do write curriculum, but this is not, this is something that I'm learning just right alongside my daughter. Okay, so Ellie, can you tell me what the difference between truth and validity is?
Well, if you had let me gone through this, probably, but no.
No? Okay. So, oops, there it goes again. Okay. Truth versus validity. A statement can be true or false. So, Indiana is a state. Is that true or false?
That's true.
That's true. Sure. Okay. Indiana is a planet.
No.
No. That's false. Okay? So, it really just has to do with whether or not something is real, I guess is a good word to say. Okay? All right. But a syllogism can be valid or invalid, okay? A valid syllogism is one that follows all the rules. A valid syllogism can be made up of false statements, okay? So false statements like Indiana is a planet, we can use that in a valid syllogism. That's the difference, okay? So let's look at this right here. All mammals are animals. Would you say that's true or false?
That's false.
All mammals are animals. That's true, right? All cats are mammals.
True.
True. Therefore, all cats are animals.
True.
Also true. Now, this is a valid syllogism. Remember, we talked about this last time. A syllogism is made up of 2 premises and a conclusion, which is what we have right here, okay? And the 2 premises are statements, right? And then the conclusion is also a statement. Okay, so this is true and it's valid. When we have a syllogism that's true and valid, we call it a sound argument, but that doesn't matter. Look what I can do. Okay, instead of animals, which is, what term is this? Do you remember?
Minor?
It's the major term. Go to the conclusion, go to the end. That's the major term. Okay, so if I take animals and change animals both in the major premise and in the conclusion to something else, aliens, this is still a valid argument, even though it's not true.
You love aliens.
I don't know. It's just what I happen to be thinking about. My son is really into aliens, so I guess that's where that came from. I don't know.
Counted like 4 times you said aliens in the last video.
All right. Well, the point is all mammals are aliens. That's not true, is it? That's a false statement. Therefore, all cats are aliens. Also not true. That's a false statement. But this syllogism is still valid because it's following all the rules. Validity only means that it's following the rules. It doesn't matter whether the statements are true or false. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. So we did this last time. Do you remember the A, E, I, and O, and the S and P? I remember all those.
It's called square of opposition.
The square of opposition. Good. Okay. So to understand how to determine if a syllogism is valid, we need to review a few concepts. We did this last time, but then the next thing we need to do is prepare the syllogism. Now, this is not what we have in your logic book. This is what I came up with to help you because they were going too fast and they were skipping steps and it was just too much. So we're going to break this down into little tiny baby steps. Got it?
Why
so
is my book longer than yours?
The first thing we're going to do is label each statement by A, E, I, or O. Okay?
Oh, is this what you made me do yesterday?
Yes. Then we're going to label whether each statement is affirmative or negative. And then we're going to circle the distributed terms. Okay? And then we're going to determine if the syllogism is valid according to the rules of validity. Okay? So let's look at this syllogism here. All water is clear liquid. No clear liquid is a solid object, therefore some water is not a solid object. Okay, so look at this.
That's sound. right?
It is sound, yes. But we need to decide whether it's valid or not. Okay. Well, actually, I'm not sure I would not call that, because some water is not a solid object. So I guess that's sound because, yeah.
You're
Okay.
confusing me.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do is label each statement by A, E, I, or U. Or not U. E, I, or O.
And O.
Okay. So if we look here at the first statement, all water is clear liquid. Do you remember which premise this is? This is the major premise. Right. Okay. Since it has the word all in it, that's this one. Okay.
So
the
circle
A.
water.
And we will circle water in a minute.
Oh,
also,
right.
we know that, or let's do the next one. So no clear liquid is a solid object. So we have the word no here. So that is
Clear
in the
liquid
E
is solid
statement.
object.
Right, but we're not doing that yet. Okay.
Oh, I keep forgetting.
And then therefore some water is not a solid object is what? Some and not are the O statements, right? Now we're going to label whether each statement is affirmative or negative. Now, we're going to do this faster eventually, but right now, okay, so look at the A statements.
A
is positive or affirmative, so we're going to put a plus sign there, okay?
E is negative.
Negative, do you see that? So we're going to put a negative there. And the reason it's negative is because it has the word no in it, which is a negative word, okay? All right, and then O is also negative because it has the word not in it. So we're going to put the negative there. Now we're going to circle the distributed terms. So in the A statement, the subject is circled. You see where it says all S is P and the S is circled? So what is the subject of all water is clear liquid?
Oh, water.
Water. So we're going to circle the water. Right. No clear liquid is a solid object. Okay, so this is an E statement. So if we look at the E statement, both the S and the P are distributed. So the subject and the
clear liquid and solid object.
So clear liquid and solid object. Okay, and then the O statement, some water is not a solid object.
Solid object.
Okay, so this is the O statement. So the predicate is circled. So we're going to circle that. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. Whew. Now, we're going to talk about the rules. So the first rule is the undistributed middle. In at least one premise, what are the premises? Premises, I should say. Premises.
The
first
two
statements
the last one's
in a syllogism. The last one is the conclusion, right?
I can't think.
Okay, so we're going to locate the two premises, which is all water is clear liquid, no clear liquid is a solid object. Okay, then we need to locate the middle term. The middle term is the term that is in both premises. So clear liquid is in both premises, right? Clear liquid is no clear liquid, and also all water is clear liquid. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is the middle term. All right.
Even though only one of them is circled, it counts.
Right. At least one of those underlined words needs to be circled, and it's circled in the minor premise, no clear liquids is a solid object. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's following that. The circled words, remember, are the distributed words. Okay? So it is following that. Yeah, clear liquid is circled there, so we're good. Okay? Now the second rule is similar, and today we're only talking about the first two rules. There's 5. We're only going to talk about the first 2. Okay? But we're going to do this for several. The second one is distributed conclusion. Okay. So any term that is distributed, which means circled, in the conclusion must also be distributed in the premise. So if we look at the conclusion, therefore some water is not a solid object, we notice that solid object is circled, right? Mm-hmm. That means that solid object needs to be circled in the premise.
And it is.
Yeah, it is. Okay? Now let's look at this one. All men are created beings. Some created beings are angels. Therefore, some angels are men. Okay?
Are you not going to use the dots for therefore?
I just wrote them. I could do dots, but that's hard to do on a computer.
Oh, okay.
You can make a little triangle with dots, 3 dots, and that means therefore. Okay, so this is an all, right? Which is an A statement, which is A positive. Okay, I'm going a little faster this time. This is
Not really.
and the S is circled, right? The subject is circled, so we're going to circle men. Okay. Here is some created beings are angels, so it uses the word some, which is this I statement. Nothing is circled here, right?
So we leave it blank.
So it is an I statement, but we leave it blank, and it is also positive because it doesn't have any words like no or not.
I statements are kind of confusing.
What?
I statements are kind of confusing.
They are a little. Okay, and then the last one, therefore some angels are men. So again, we have the some, right?
Which is also an I statement.
Which is also an I statement, so we don't circle anything. Okay, so let's go over the rules now. Now that we've prepped our syllogism, let's go over the rules. Undistributed middle. Okay, so we're looking for the phrase or word or phrase that is in both of the premises, which is the first two. Can you see that? So we have all men are created beings, some created beings are angels. What are we saying twice?
We are saying created beings.
Created
twice.
beings. Okay, so we found the middle term, okay? And the rule is one of these needs to be circled.
None of them are circled.
Neither one of these are circled. So this breaks the first rule. So it is not a valid argument, okay? This is the undistributed middle. That's what it's breaking, okay? Because neither one of those are circled or distributed. All right, so let's talk about distributed conclusion with this same thing. We already know it's not a valid argument, but we're going to keep going. Okay, so any term that is distributed or circled in the conclusion must also be distributed in the premise. Well, it doesn't mean that it has to be circled. It just means that if it is circled, it has to be circled other places. But in this sentence, we need to look for the term that is circled or distributed in the conclusion. Well, I don't see anything circled in the conclusion. Do you?
No.
So it's not breaking that rule. Okay? Does that make sense? Well, it'll make more sense when we do some more examples. Okay, let's try this one. Some rocks are granite. No granite is a sandstone. Therefore, some sandstones are not rocks.
Some rocks are granite is an I statement.
Why do you say it's an I statement?
Because some are.
Right. So, and it is positive. And do we need to circle anything?
Nope.
No, because there's nothing distributed over there. Okay, what about no granite is a sandstone?
That is an E statement.
Why do you know that?
Because it starts with no.
Mm-hmm.
So we circle granite and sandstone, and it's also negative.
Okay,
E negative.
So let's write E negative, and then we're going to circle both the subject and the predicate, granite and sandstone, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then, therefore, some sandstones are not rocks. We have some and not, so that is a O statement.
Okay.
So it's O negative, and we only circle the predicate, which is rocks.
Okay. All right. So we've done all of our prep work. Now we're ready to look at the first two rules. Okay, remember there's 5 rules altogether, but today we're just focusing on these 2.
So
okay?
much easier than having to go through all 5.
It is, except that once you get this, you really can do it very quickly. It just takes some practice. Okay, so the rule of undistributed middle. Can you explain the rule of undistributed middle to me?
If you click the next slide, sure.
Well, first of all, what's the middle term? How do we know what the middle term is?
The term that is in the conclusion.
Not
Premise?
It's in both premises.
Which
Okay.
is granite.
Granite is in both premises.
And no granite is a sandstone. Granite is circled, so that's good.
Right. So it has to be circled in at least one. It can be both, but at least one term. So is at least one term circled, which means distributed? And yes, in the E statement, it is. So it's following that rule. Okay, let's do distributed conclusion. Okay, so is any term that is distributed or circled in the conclusion must also be distributed in the premise. So is there anything circled in the conclusion?
Rocks.
Rocks is circled in the conclusion, which means that it also has to be circled in the premise.
But it's not.
But it's not. So it is breaking a rule. And this rule is called illicit. And then we have to decide, is this the major term or the minor term? It's breaking rocks, right?
It's major.
That's the major. Remember, go to the conclusion, go to the end. That's a major term. So it's the illicit major. Okay. All right. Let's do, I think we have two more. All whales are sea creatures.
That is A.
Okay, that's A. How do you know it's A?
Because it's all.
Because of the word all. Okay. And A is, so we're going a little faster. I'm going to write all this down in one step. It's A positive, and the subject is
whales.
Whales.
Some sea creatures are warm-blooded animals.
Okay, so this is some.
Some are, which is I positive, and you don't circle anything.
No circling anything.
Therefore, no warm-blooded animals are whales. That is a no statement, so it's an E negative. And you circle both the subject and the premise, which is
subject and predicate.
Predicate. Warm-blooded and whales.
Okay, so warm-blooded and whales. Okay, first rule. Undistributed middle. So we have to find...
sea creatures.
Nothing is
circled.
Right, nothing is circled. So it
breaks that rule.
It breaks that rule, which is called the...
Undistributed middle.
Very good. Undistributed middle. But we're going to do rule 2 as well, just to see if it's breaking any other rules. Okay? So,
we have any term that is distributed or circled in the conclusion must also be distributed in the premise. So we have whales and whales. So
whales and whales are both circled, but what about warm-blooded animals?
Warm-blooded animals is not circled.
Yeah, so the whales is fine, but the warm-blooded animals in the minor premise, you see where it says some sea creatures are warm-blooded animals, is not circled. So that is breaking a rule as well. Okay, so it is called the illicit, but look at this. It's the warm-blooded animals that we're worried about, which is in the subject, which means it's an illicit minor because it's the minor term. Very good. That is all we have. Great job, Ellie. Talk to you next time.